Well, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Legends of Zegen, and I am again super excited. We're about to close out the year, and I have got an incredible guest here with me today. I am wicked excited to interview this gentleman all the way from New York City, Eric Yves Garcia. I said that correctly, yes?
You did.
Hey, brilliant.
Every syllable, absolutely. Thank you.
I practiced that.
Thanks, Dave.
So, Eric, the reason I have you on the pod is because I find your line of work fascinating. Mm-hmm. And I think that you are an incredible human because not only are you out there being a musician, being an artist, but you're also giving back to your community by teaching children about music. And so we're going to get into a lot of stuff today, folks. But I assure you that Eric is 100% legend, and you're going to hear about it today. So first off, Eric, let's start with your life. You're living in New York, correct?
Oh, yeah, indeed. Yeah, absolutely.
And how long have you been there?
Well, I guess I moved there for the first time for college. Mm-hmm. And then was in and out, moved out, kind of hopped in and out, but was always had maintained kind of a presence there. It feels maybe 25-ish years, more, maybe, give or take. This most recent time, I guess, about 15 years.
Okay.
But it's a long time.
But mostly, and I would say exclusively East Coast, though, correct? You've never lived Midwest or West Coast?
Yeah, I'm a little ashamed to say.
No, don't be ashamed. That's
I have not. No, I grew up very near New York, really right in its orbit. As a matter of fact, in a kind of coastal part of New Jersey, just about an hour to 45 minutes south of New York, with New York visible from the beach. So New York has always, I think, not just been part of my life, but been part of my imagination, I guess. It was always kind of there, aware of my father used to work there, we used to go. I think my earliest memory of New York City would be in 1983.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I would have been, but maybe when I was about 4. In what they call the bad old good old days, of like the full Gotham City experience of New York City.
Very cool. Yes.
The nightmarish plumes of smoke and beat up old taxis and garbage and hookers and awful things.
And gunshots just
yes,
ring out
exactly.
Across the
Yes,
city.
exactly. So I mean, it's kind of long, always East Coast. I'm grateful to travel through my work, but I've always been based there. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I love that. No, that's amazing. You just look like a quintessential New Yorker, which I mean that in the best way.
No,
because when I think of New Yorker, I just think of somebody who's very, very friendly, but about their business. Somebody who's fashionable. I mean, the hair alone should have its own museum, I feel like. And we'll probably talk about that as well. But so from your line of work, from your passion with music, give me help me and everybody else understand kind of what the realm is of your music. What are you doing and what have you done?
Well, I do a few different things, all with a musical bent to them, where that music is the port of entry, or however you want to put it. I perform a few nights a week. It depends which nights and in which place, but there are a few different cocktail bars or a hotel or a lounge or a venue where I perform on a regular basis. So I still do perform. Then I also work for a whole bunch of different people. But I work with little kids at the age of about 6 or 7, and their after-school programs currently in 2 schools. One is a public school, and one is a very, very Tony, very posh, enormous private school. And it's because a lot of these schools don't have arts programs anymore, at least not the way that I knew them growing up.
Wow. Okay.
In a built in.
Yes.
You know, whether you tried out for the school play or you whatever, or learned anyway various things. So they outsource it to this company called Drama Zone, and I work with them. So I go there, around 3:30, and I get to be the good cop. I don't have to direct them or scold them or take them to the bathroom or anything. I just teach. They have little shows they do, whether it's Annie or Willy Wonka or Aladdin or
oh wow,
whatever.
okay.
And it's like a 35, 40-minute or 30-minute version of the show with about 5 tunes or something.
Okay.
And I help teach the kids the songs and find their key, and keep it tighten it when they have. They're so young and they're doing a million other different things.
Sure.
Make sure that they're singing it right and get all the different things, and then I accompany them during their little recital. But I work with them. Kids. This was a post-COVID job, so.
Oh yeah.
It in the landscape when all my work had just effectively evaporated. Mm-hmm. I mean everything.
Sure. Yeah. The bars were closed. The venues you were playing in were closed, and so now
any of my narrating work, any of my everything was just gone. So somebody said, "Hey, do you want to try doing this thing?" And I've it's kind of refreshed some of enthusiasm. Not that I lost my enthusiasm, but it's refreshed my rapport to music in a way, working with little kids, and that they get excited and then they get it right, and then it's I don't know, it's just got to put some charm back into it, as opposed to singing in a noisy place where there's a lot of chaos and you're not sure it's landing or people hear you or that it even sounds good or whatever. But there's something about working with them which is wonderful. And then the other thing that I do is I work with senior citizens who have varying degrees of cognitive loss. And I do that through a few different assisted livings throughout the city, which are very fancy. I mean, some of them look like fabulous hotels.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's extraordinary.
Sure.
And I do that with them, even if a happy hour, it sounds like a joke, but it's not actually. They hang out and they have a glass of wine or something. and I, we just kind of keep it lively. Anyway, I work through the 92nd Street Y, which is a huge sort of social, cultural community. That's a Y, but it's one of the major ones in New York City. And they have this program which has become a huge hit called the Program for Cognitive Strength. And it's people still living at home, so some of them come and go on their own, leave class and catch a bus and go home. Some of them need help with an aide or a child or a spouse comes and picks them up. It's varying degrees of memory loss, of varying difficulty. Mm. And I'm one of they have various musical instructors, who some play classical music, some play, play and sing songs from, Hebraic, Hebrew, Hebraic music, and it just varies. And so I go in and do what I do, and I'm with them several times a month, and it's about connection really. And I come in with ideas about what we might talk about, or singers, or songwriters, or whatever, and then it's just the engagement, how the memories it elicits for them, the thought, whatever encourages them to interact, sing along, a memory associated with a particular lyric. You really never know.
Sure.
And that too is fascinating, how music affects the brain. I'm not a neurologist,
Oh, you're not?
No.
Okay, I'm surprised you're not, because you've done so much everything else that you're not.
No. I'm just a saloon singer who happens to go, do a couple of jobs while the sun is still up.
I love that though. But that's, to your point though, I think it is really profound, because I've heard the same thing about studies where music helps those suffering with dementia, Alzheimer's, whatever, cognitive, like you said, mental illnesses or holdbacks. Unlocking memories for them that they would never otherwise, remember.
Yeah.
And music is powerful in that way.
It caught me at a strange, yes, very much so. It caught me at a strange time, this job, this and the working with kids. I guess I'd been performing, playing and singing on a weekly basis, if not multiple nights, many nights a week, and then, varying degrees, bookings here and there. But for about 20 years almost, and almost, anyway, nearer to 20 than any other number. And so,
okay.
What I found that, I'm now 46, and so working with 6 and 7-year-olds, and also working with people some in their 90s, some in their late 80s, or whatever, some even younger, and then me squarely in the middle, in the rage of ages, has changed. I don't know. It's changed my rapport to music. It's changed my perspective of, living. Looking at the 6 and 7-year-olds, remembering the school plays you did.
Yes.
Which don't seem altogether that long ago.
Yeah, of course.
And what might have inspired you to want to pursue music in the first place. And then looking, at people very much bookended at the other side of their experiences and their travels, and what music provides them, whether it reanimates them or consoles them, or I don't know. It sounds kind of philosophical. I don't mean it to be, but it's been fascinating.
I love that it has been fascinating, and I find it fascinating because yes, you're correct. You are right in the middle, so you're getting to teach and mentor these younger people, and also kind of watch them experience and help you remember what it was like. To your point, being a part of your first play, or like you said, why you got into music, and I'm curious to ask you, what did get you into music?
Well, I think it was my mom played. I was aware of her playing, although she didn't. We had a piano at the house, and I was always aware in that way that you sometimes can be made aware of. You ask questions as a little kid. You ask questions about your parents, or you become aware of things your parents were good at when they were your age, or whatever. I don't know.
Sure.
And I was one of the defining things that I had been told about my mom was that she was a really good piano, really fine piano player, classical, and but she would only play at Christmas so everybody could sing, and she had stopped playing otherwise, and I think I just kind of gravitated towards it, and I consider myself hugely fortunate that the piano was there for me to gravitate to, whether I wanted to or not.
Yes.
And that also I was surrounded with family who, thought fostering that was a good idea. And I guess I was about 6 or 7, and then I remember being in school, and I had a music teacher I was very, very fond of, and I learned that there was a girl in my class who was getting private piano lessons from this teacher. And I got a little, I don't know, put my nose out of joint. It annoyed me that this girl was getting something very rare and special from this teacher. And I was not. So,
like jealousy?
Yeah, it annoyed me. I was like, oh, no, this can't stand. I've got to, I need a piece of this action. So, I think I just wanted it anyway. And I asked, and I did end up having lessons with her, and then I took lessons until I was about 16 or 17.
Oh wow,
classical, okay. Yeah, at home, and I stopped the lessons, but I never stopped playing. I continued on playing for myself. I went to college. I got a degree in theater.
Oh yes.
So I trained as an actor, and because I'd done that all my life too, a lot of theater and more of that than playing. I should have never imagined that playing the piano would be so much of my life. Really. or how I would earn a living. I mean, it was really just something I did for me.
More of a hobby or a passion, right?
Yeah.
Some kids play video games, some kids play football, and you were just very passionate about playing the piano.
Yeah, and negotiating that when that becomes how you punch the clock.
That's interesting that you found a way to navigate that.
Well, kind of accidentally.
Okay.
I would love to lay claim to some sort of design, you know.
Where you just hard knock, you were pounding on doors until somebody let you in. You just happened to
it was more of a buckshot approach, and then one of the pellets happened to hit something. But,
okay, that's perseverance and determination to get what you want.
Yeah, well, I got that degree in theater, and then I was auditioning. I was driving then. Well, I still know how to drive it. I don't want to imply that
You're like, I don't drive anymore.
Yes.
No need.
Well, or that
I've
lost the legal right to drive, you know, or something awful. Sure. But no, I was I was driving driving between New York and Philly a lot, auditioning in Philly and New York, and just had hurled myself into it anew. I spent some years kind of hiding from it. And working in coffee shops or different things, and you know, and all that, which can happen, and then there was just a moment where I just thought, oh God, what if one day I wake up and I'm ready to kind of leap through the window, but you know, the window, I'm ready, but the window's closed.
Ooh, okay.
So I that was kind of it, and so I hurled myself into it and was auditioning. Oh my God. I mean, just it feels like all over the place. And
let me ask you, was it competitive? Like, is it a competitive market for
actors?
Yeah, well, okay, not actors, but I guess theater actors, though.
Oh, yeah.
Highly competitive, maybe more so, I guess, because there's Broadway. Sorry, I'm not that familiar with the New York theater scene, and so I'm curious if it is highly competitive, or
it's pretty ferociously competitive.
Yes, okay.
I would say. And I would go to open calls, you know, and well, not book anything really. I mean, you know, it was I guess ultimately good experience. You know, you're standing in the hall and you're gonna go, you know, you're standing there with your monologue or your song or whatever the hell you're gonna go in to do, and it's your turn next, and you know, through the closed door you hear somebody just doing the piece you're about to walk in and do. But you know, I'm very grateful to have done it. It kind of continuously scared the hell out of me, but I'm very, even if I didn't quite distinguish myself by landing a ton of work, but it is hugely competitive, and I started booking I mean, not huge things, but some on-camera stuff, which I had no experience doing at all. I mean, I'd done plays all my life, you know, and then I started, you know, like some commercials and some print work and some TV, some indie film stuff. I mean, not a ton.
Very cool, though. Yeah.
But I was in a season finale episode of Gossip Girl.
Really?
Yes.
How can we find it?
I was a casino croupier.
Wait, what's a croupier?
Because the guy who, you know, with the cards, you know, flips the cards.
Oh yes,
dealer.
A dealer.
Or
yeah.
was it croupier? Well, croupier I guess would be for roulette. You know, spins the
the
ball on the wheel or something.
Okay.
And I think no, we didn't have a roulette wheel. I think it was a table. It was at the. It was supposed to be like a real Casino Royale type thing, where we were supposed to be in a French casino in Monte Carlo or something.
Oh, very cool.
And we were actually at the Roosevelt Hotel on Madison Avenue, which was open then. And I had one line. Will you be joining again? I had one line or two lines. And you know, every now and then I still get a residual check from that. I mean,
That's amazing.
It'll be like, you know, $38.
That's still awesome.
But it was great. It flipped me it made me SAG-AFTRA eligible.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
which I still have. And
you still have your SAG card?
Well, I didn't. The eligible allows me to work.
Okay. Okay.
A certain amount
in that circuit as part. Is it part of a union? Like, is that? Do you get to be part of the union?
So I think it entitles me to work certain. Maybe I should keep my mouth shut before I put my foot in it. No, I'm joking. But but no. It like when audiobooks and stuff. When I've done those, they've been under SAG-AFTRA contracts and.
Got it.
Okay. And I think it pays into, being a union. It pays into, but you don't reap, until you join, you don't reap the pays. Yeah, exactly.
So being part of it. Yes. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
I'm loosely familiar with the SAG kind of community and stuff, but I was just that's fascinating though that you had some actual
I did
well-known screen, because indie films and stuff are fascinating too, and that's also very awesome.
It was fun. It was an awful lot of work because by then it was really tiring because I was often playing gigs at night and then having to either film in the morning and I hadn't moved back to the city. I was bouncing back and forth. It was just completely insane. But what ended up happening is that while I was driving between, Philly and New York and pacing back and forth, with all of that, I also got my equity card, which is the stage union.
Okay.
Being part of a sort of miserable little troupe. I shouldn't. And the company wasn't miserable. We were miserable.
I was going to ask.
but
okay.
No, it's all right. But it was unglamorous, but got the job done. I got my equity card and doing a children's plays all around the tri-state area.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and it was what they call an ASM contract, an assistant stage manager contract. So you were responsible for. Unloading the crates and the cables and the flats for the sets and the baskets of costumes and every other damn thing, and piling pre-dawn into a beat-up old white van, and go trundling around the tri-state area from sometimes multiple schools in a day, and anyway, I did it, and the shows were about history, I think, or something. And anyway,
boring to you?
Well, no, not boring to me. No, it was it wasn't. It makes for a funnier story than it did an experience at the time. But I did it, and then one day I wandered into this place, which which is kind of how I ended up performing the way I perform, which I don't know, we can cover that later or now, or I don't know, whatever you want to.
Yeah, I mean, I want to understand the journey, because also the point here for me and for everybody else listening too is maybe they do have a passion for wanting to go down the same path that you've gone down, right? And understanding some, some lessons learned, or being able to commiserate in, I've done those miserable jobs and I've had to go through that, and knowing that there is light at the end of the tunnel, right? That's important too. But yeah, I definitely want to know kind of what the impetus was for you for, becoming a performer, not only an actor, but more so now what you're doing in your current field, and then also, with regards to voiceover work as well. I mean, so many things that, guys, we have so much to get into. It's incredible. But yeah, so let's go back to kind of the journey of where you're at now. Or where you just left off in the story.
Well, I there was this place. It's still there. The place is still there. It was on 42nd Street, between 9th and 10th Avenues, and right in the theater district. And it is a place called Chez Josephine, and it's dedicated to the legend, really, of the eternal Josephine Baker, who was really, the fabulous, really like mythic African-American woman from St. Louis who went to Paris in, I think, 1925. and became a megastar, really, almost like the prototypical singing, dancing, sexy, self-created, glamorous, exciting, sex bomb megastar of her day.
Okay.
And in the Roaring 20s and in Paris and all that stuff. And she died, I think, in the mid-70s.
Okay.
And she adopted many, many, many children. And one of her adopted sons opened this bar and restaurant, which became a super popular pre-theater, post-theater, kind of theater hangout. Very popular among people going to shows.
Okay.
But also very popular among people who write about theater, work in theater. It was just that kind of place.
I love that.
And, it would get, some celebrities and all that different stuff. Sometimes, kind of the classic older generation of celebrity, and sometimes very young. It varied. Anyway, one day at lunch, I wandered in there, and they're not open for lunch. So I don't know what I was thinking, because normally the door is locked, but that day it was unlocked. And I went in there, and I met this man, this outrageous, very florid, grand, theatrical man who was totally intimidating. And he insisted I audition there and then. All I wanted to do was get a piano playing job to make some money. Mm-hmm. And all my friends, my actor friends, were bartenders and waiters and things, and supporting themselves that way. And since I was a complete idiot, I thought that it would be more rewarding to do something creative for money rather than do that. And it never dawned on me that I would be making like 1/6 of money. But so be it. And so I just had this feeling that something would happen for me there in some way. And I went in, and this insane man, I thought, oh my God, what have I got myself into? And he grabbed me by the arm, and he had this very thick French accent. And I said, and he was pulling me across the room, and I said, what are you doing? Where are you taking me? And he said, do you want me to bring the piano to you? And I said, no, just not, that tracks. And so I went and I played for him. And anyway, this is a very long story. So
no, it's fantastic. Keep going. Yeah,
so
keep going.
I took out a piece of music, and I started reading it and playing it badly. And
really?
Oh, dreadful. And he grabbed the music. It was a book. And he hurled it across like a frisbee. He hurled it across the room. It nearly took out some glasses. He just hurled it. And I said, well, I need that. And he absolutely read me the riot act that I should be ashamed of myself for needing music. It was totally unprofessional. And that if I wanted to make any kind of distinction for myself, I must have something the others do not have. And I must be like the tightrope, this is literally what he said, like the tightrope walker who crosses without the net, and the audience longs to see you kill yourself, but when you cross and you do not kill yourself, the next morning they make you a great star. I mean, it was totally bonkers.
That's amazing.
And
wow.
so he said, memorize many, many, many hours of music and call me in 2 weeks. And I said, yes, of course, anything to get out of there. And I left, and I didn't call him. And he called me.
Wow.
And he said, darling, you must come tonight. The pianist cannot make it. I keep your card. Very important people tonight, darling. You must understand. You must come quickly. And I said, well, I haven't learned hours of music. Does that matter? Yes, no, don't worry, darling. No, you must, please, quick. I see you tonight. It's fine. And he hung up. So I reported, and I got there, and I brought my music with me.
Okay.
I mean, I looked like a doctor's satchel. It was enormous.
Cases of books.
Well, because the gig was extraordinarily long. Mm. I mean, it was theoretically 5 hours, which is a very long gig.
Oh, wow.
But it would end up being more like 7.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. And the first set was, he was adamant. The first set would have to be start at 5:30. Continual, uninterrupted music. No breaks, no repeats.
No breaks.
No.
Wow.
You had to keep going for the atmosphere. So until about 20 to 8 when people started to get up to go to the theater.
Okay.
And shows were at 8 then, which makes me feel about 300 years old. And
okay.
Anyway, the end of the story is that he just scowled at me all night. He just glared at me that I was awful and it was terrible. And occasionally he would pick up the piano and move it while I was playing it so people could get by. And it was the voyage of the damned. It was awful. And I got to the end of the night. I had no idea how I was going to get paid. I didn't know whether I was, banished from the city limits. It was just dreadful. He didn't even speak to me, just left. And so I was talking to who I found out later was his brother, another one of Josephine's adopted sons. And I said, well, what, he goes, oh yeah, I'll go over there. And that guy has a little metal box under the counter. Again, 300 years ago, that you got paid out of a little beat up tin box. Do you know what I mean? So it makes it sound like this all happened in 1930. But, and paid cash. And it was just it really was different. And, and I said, well, I said, and he goes, oh no, I said, what? He goes, no, well, I'll see you next week. And he said, well, what are you talking about? He said, well, you work here now.
Oh, wow.
And I said, what? And I said, well, I was just filling in for the other pianist. And he goes, oh no, he fired the other pianist. He had totally manipulated me. And so and indeed, it was because of his inviolable rule. Not a scrap of sheet music on the table in front of piano in front of you, and it was a real baptism by fire. And what happened was that, it felt like I had a low simmering panic attack for about 7 years, which I did.
Oh, no.
Because I worked for him for 7 years, and his name was Jean-Claude Baker, and he's since died. So I worked for him about almost 8 years until he died. But, and he introduced me to, then I'd be on a break and he would, grab me by both arms and he'd be shoving me to one table and he'd whisper, now pay attention, this one is this and this coming from this other thing. You are going to smile, talk, be interesting, don't stay too long, don't talk too much. And he would just drop me at a table that had not asked about, didn't know I existed and didn't care. And but he would oblige me to engage and be light on my feet and all these different things, and it changed my life.
Do you think that he was trying to put you in these uncomfortable situations because
Constantly.
he saw a lot of potential in you and wanted to kind of carve you into something that you are now today, right? But
yeah, maybe
was that his intention? Or do you think he was just kind of an eccentric gentleman?
Both.
Okay,
but I hope so. I think so and hope so.
Yeah.
He didn't. It was really an enormous. He was as generous as he could be destructive. I mean, he could be very rough and extremely mercurial and very volcanic, and you'd be banished and suspended for weeks and never entirely clear why. It was a lot, and it was. But what his doing those things and were huge acts of generosity, and I think he was kind of hammering me into some kind of shape.
I see.
And I found out later even more that he would ask this famous director choreographer to come, and I didn't know that he was arranging some of these things, and just that they would hear me, or that they would. Later, I did my own show, or it was remarkable. It was. I guess he imagined that it would not reflect badly on him, that I wouldn't embarrass him, hopefully.
Sure.
And what I noticed was that, and then he started forcing me to sing. So which I'd really not done much of, let alone while playing the piano. I mean, some, but really not. And there was a day when I'd gotten to 7:40, which was when I was permitted to take my break. And I just poured myself a cup of coffee. And I heard the piano playing. And then I heard somebody singing. And that was unusual. And he came over and he said, "You hear that? This one is from cruise ship. He can play and sing. When you are finished with your coffee, if you cannot play and sing, you can go home and he takes your job."
Oh, wow.
And he auditioned him on my break with me there. And
that's savage.
Oh yeah. He knew, he had a little smirk at the side of his face. And I think he knew he was pretty crafty.
He knew that you could do it. He knew that you could be better than this other guy, but just
maybe so
forcing you into doing it.
But he also knew that I was probably too impoverished to walk away and say to hell with this. And then also I think probably he knew that I was too eager to please,
Okay.
Do you know? I mean,
yes,
he knew that it mattered to me.
Yes.
And that I would snap too, and I did. And I don't know what became of that cruise ship player. I'm sure off being very successful somewhere. But what happened was that I was still auditioning, but I wasn't seeing anything happening in people. Well, of course, they all look a little like zombies after a long day of looking at every other person in town. But I just wasn't seeing anybody's eyes light up in those rooms. And then I would leave those open calls or whatever, and I'd go report to this job. And he, having been obliged to play and sing and just kind of just sweating through it night after night, I noticed that people started to kind of look, and then their eyes looked differently. And I thought, why is this happening in this room? And it doesn't happen in the other rooms that I seem to go into all over town. In the rooms where I really wanted it to.
Okay.
But it was happening in this room, which was just kind of the sideline thing. Do you see what I mean? That's what I mean by I didn't go into it with much intention.
Sure.
I just wanted to improve as a musician.
And this really puts your feet to the fire, absolutely,
totally.
To go and just hone the craft, even though maybe that wasn't your whole intention, but you forced into it.
Well, then it was kind of go towards the thing or the room where people's eyes. You know when people's eyes change when you've done your thing, or offered what you have to offer. Even if you're still a work in progress, and who isn't? But that, I guess, was the big takeaway then for me, was I just thought, well, when you do a play, or you do an indie film, or you do whatever, there's pre-existing material that you interpret the best you can, give it a little bit of you, or a whole lot of you, whatever you have to offer to it. But it's an interpretive thing. I was never writing my own songs. So I thought, well, it's not too different if I had a monologue to learn as opposed to learning a song. And you've got that enclosed amount of time to put your spin on it.
Sure.
And take your chances, I guess. And if they're more inclined to react and have something lovely happen in their eyes with an undercurrent of music to it, as opposed to you standing on a stage somewhere, well, I guess make hay while the sun shines.
That's fantastic. Yes, absolutely.
So I kind of pivoted that way, and then it kind of broke open. It was the thing that kind of broke for me, in its way, and I started having opportunities that carried me beyond the walls of that place.
Sure, because as far as I'm aware, you have really now developed a reputation, at the very least, right, of being somebody who...
Depending who one asks.
Sure. But, I mean, ultimately, though, you're building your brand, even though maybe you weren't really realizing that you were building a brand.
Yeah.
But you have now built a brand around, your talents as a musician, now as a singer as well. And I'm going to play a quick clip here for everybody to watch of you singing some Christmas music.
Oh my God.
It's phenomenal. And check this out.
It's not the glow you feel when snow appears. It's not the Christmas card you've sent for years. Not the joyful sounds when sleigh bells ring, or the merry songs children sing.
You are incredible. And so I think that your talents have obviously, I mean, years and years of practice, years of being in, a subject matter expert at this point now, as far as being able to be somebody who plays. And the style of music it's called.
I guess, well, it would be, it's Great American Songbook or American Songbook, sort of jazz inflected. What would you call it? I don't know. There should be a tidy term for it.
I feel like there should be a tidy term, other than maybe,
I wouldn't call myself a jazz singer. I really wouldn't. I know jazz singers and admire them hugely. I wouldn't call myself a jazz singer because I think such people really are like human musical instruments.
Yes,
they do it different.
Yes, it is more focused on their voice, and especially jazz singers oftentimes are strictly just singers, not predominantly musicians or playing an instrument. Maybe I'm wrong, but whenever I think of a jazz musician, I see them standing in front on the stage with the microphone with their band backing them, right? But but you're multi-talented though, because you can do both, and the spin or the talent that you have of just playing these classic tunes, these show tunes, all of these really familiarized songs, but you put your own flair on them, and you kind of make them your own, which is really why I think you have been so successful, is because again, you've kind of created your own brand around the way that you play, and it's just it's fun. It's fun to watch, it's fun to participate and just enjoy. So,
that's really kind of you. That's very generous of you. Thank you, Dave.
No, I speak for I think a lot of people who would resonate exactly that. So
there inevitably there are people that you idolize or you fixate on or that seem to speak to you, performers, whether they're very well known or not, and I wouldn't say it's a matter of stealing. It's a matter of just sort of fixating on it and thinking, how the hell did they do that? Which is inevitable, isn't it? And of course, kind of handing over that you'll never and shouldn't do what they did. But sure. I think there's something hugely valuable in soaking in it and handing over the fact that you'll never be able to replicate it.
Right.
And that inevitably, however it comes through you, is going to make it all the better and uniquely yours. Warts and all.
I love that though. And that's what makes it amazing. And even with you playing on this, on this piano that your sister brought over from her house, and it sounded amazing, and it just
thank you, man.
There's the spirit of Christmas. I mean, yes, I loved it. It was enjoyable, and now I want to go to to New York to see you actually play. Or you're traveling now. You're traveling internationally.
Yeah.
Right. You'll be in London, I think, in 2025.
I will. Yeah, in October of 2025, I'll be. There's a wonderful nightclub. Cabaret space nightclub. It has a variety of different kinds of acts. It's called the Crazy Coqs, COQS. It's in right off Piccadilly. It's right
wow.
So right in the heart of things, and technically in Soho. And I've been fortunate enough to perform there a bunch of times, and I was just there in October of this year, and they very very graciously asked me back for next year.
Of course they did.
Yeah.
Of course they did.
I do love playing in London. London's an awful lot of fun. I find that in London, more so than in New York, not to put New York down, but in London I find that people will turn out for an act they don't know. Give them a shot, pure out of curiosity. Just oh, what's this about?
Let's see what this person has to bring to the table.
In New York, if they're not familiar with you, or some friend hasn't dragged them along, or they haven't, if you're untested, it's trickier.
Oh, interesting.
For whatever reason, that's my impression.
Sure.
But I do love performing in London. It's a lot of fun.
That's amazing. And you've traveled around the world, right? You've played in many cities across the U.S. and that continues for you. Now you'll be playing again in London, and is that going to be like, are you booking these through an agent? Are you just doing these based on your own efforts to find things that through connections and people that you've met along the way? That's amazing.
Entirely. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah. Yes, I'll also be. Yeah, there's some fun things on the docket for 25. It's still extraordinary to me that little job granted me much of what I needed, I guess, in terms of the nerve-wracking baptism by fire and which it really was, but also in terms of the human connection, the friends I made, the people I met, the lessons I learned. Some in a lovely way, some not. But sort of allowed me to, granted me the opportunity to, some, and just lovely, and whether it's, in various spots around the country. So it's been. I'm still sort of fascinated and sort of astonished by it, to tell you the truth.
That's amazing. Incredible that you're still able to kind of sit back, look at it and say, extraordinary. Like I'm still in awe of where I've gone.
Yeah.
And continuing to go too. I mean, you are in your prime as far as still being able to go, and now you are at this point where you are a known quantity. You have really honed your craft, and so, I mean, the sky's the limit now.
Do you know what? But even it's super helpful to one thing I used to do with the kids. This is now maybe a year, maybe 2 years ago. I was performing at the Pierre Hotel, which is one of the main big old sort of grand dame fancy hotels in New York on Fifth Avenue. And on Thursdays. And I used to also have a school job then, after school. And there was no time to go all the way home to change. And, so whatever I was going to wear for the Grand Hotel job, I would wear to the school. And since we weren't doing finger painting or anything, I mean, it would be fine. And so I was just sitting in the cafeteria with them one day with the keyboard, working on, I don't know, Sound of Music or something, at these 6-year-olds. And I had brought 2 pocket squares and 2 ties because I didn't know which ones I was going to wear. And I just, on an impulse, I said to the kids, all right, before we do, Do, Re, Mi, and whatever other song we're going to sing today, I need your help. And I took out the pocket square and the tie combinations, and I said, you've got to help me pick.
Oh, that's great.
What I'm wearing tonight when I go to this big fancy hotel. And it became a little tradition. We used to do it every week. And sometimes when I forgot, they would remind me, Mr. Eric, where's the tie? And the reason I mention it is that for all the frustrations I had, and I did, doing that particular job, and it's so easy to lose the joy of it or lose the feeling of rarity and the feeling of privilege, and all you're reminded of is, I'm up against this, and now this other person, or this, not just that job, but any job. What's the money like? Or, you feel like you're being, all the things that you gripe about.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so anything that can reinvigorate, recharge you with the feeling of rarity that here you are, self-employed, kicking around New York City, a sort of devilishly competitive place, and you're expected somewhere to be you. And I don't know, it was that. Their excitement reminded me that I should refresh my excitement.
I love that.
And for them, because they were like, what's the hotel like? Where's the piano? Do people talk to you? Do you meet anybody famous? Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
All the things that I'd sort of alienated from my experience because I was just eyebrows deep in all the stuff that you go through, just trying to...
Not being able to take a step back and kind of sit in the stands and watch yourself doing what you're doing.
Yes,
and
exactly.
being able to appreciate maybe those things. And
they're just 6-year-olds. I mean, to them, you know, it must, when you tell them, oh, I have to go in some fancy old hotel and play the piano. So for them, I don't know what they thought they were going to be, dancing girls, or I don't know, like scenery flying in from the ceiling or something. I don't know what they imagined, but they were so lit up about it.
Yes.
And people too, you know. And it's a real reminder of how lucky it is to just, you know, nobody's telling you what songs to sing.
Yeah.
So just go, and
you get to go and
hold it lightly and just do it. Give it what you got, and
that's incredible.
Have your shift drink and catch the bus home. That's it. Just go be on your way. Yeah. So I don't know.
I love that. No, thanks, Eric. I appreciate that. That really that cap on tying in with the kids too, and having them kind of help you understand like what you're doing is incredible and amazing, and something maybe you never imagined yourself doing. And when you're in the thick of it, you don't take an opportunity to step back and really appreciate what you've accomplished, how far you've come, all of the adversity that you've faced to get to where you are today. And so the fact that you're able to find that within those kids.
Well, yes. And it also reminds me, with people too, you know, you tell somebody you just did London, or you just did whatever. I just came back from Palm Springs, or you know, whatever, the things you do. And it reminds me, this holds some wonder for them. It's, you know, it's touched with a little excitement.
Yes.
And you're in the kitchen, you know how the sausage is made. Don't pop their balloon. Let
them have that mystique.
Yes, they have wonder about it. And it's not that the wonder is fake. The wonder is real.
Yes.
So, but show business is kind of like that, you know?
Sure. It starts out, and then you get to really see the behind the curtain as well of how it's actually run.
Sure.
And stuff. But
well, it's a place for, I tend to think it's an industry where emotions run high, but it's no place for feelings.
Yes.
You know.
Sure.
And which may apply to a lot of other industries as well. It's not that,
I think it might actually, yes.
You know, it doesn't mean show business is, you know, it's not like keeping some eternal flame or something. You know, it's a line of work like any other.
Sure.
And, but yeah. So.
It's glamorous. Now, I do want to ask you quickly though, because you're passionate about writing and you're working on a book. And can you briefly tell us what's going on there?
Absolutely, yeah. So I am, and have been now for some time, working on a book. It's a memoir about those 7.5, 8-ish years that I worked for that gentleman in that place.
Fantastic.
And that period of my life focused in that spot. My rapport with him, which is complicated, and what the vantage point was, looking at the world coming through that place in New York City, in the theater district, working late hours and sort of peering at the world and all the various creatures that passed through that place or worked there from over the lid of the piano, you know. And it's about that. And I'll be illustrating it somewhat too. And, but, you know, some of it, so it'll be, you know, I aim for it to be more humorous than anything.
I think it will be, absolutely.
And it was kind of a transitional, it was a weird kind of transitional period for that place. I think for the town too. It was pre-COVID. It was a slightly different city.
It's different times, right?
Different.
Yes.
Very different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited about it. I've got an agent who's a wonder, and I'm at work on it, and that's I think, I started writing stories working that job because I longed for something that I had built from the ground up.
Sure.
As opposed to what I love and what I'm still devoted to, which is interpreting just the songs I like, which is a privilege to be able to do. But there's something about weaving your own thing whole cloth, which appealed to me.
I can appreciate that. Yes, I think that's important to do as part of just your journey as well. You kind of get to put this cap on this point in time of your life, and also getting to write it and in your perspective and share those funny stories. I mean, it's hilarious, the entire thing, and it's like a movie, just in the short story you told us here.
So what I realized thinking about it in the last 6 months to a year, I started thinking, well, let's see. How can I put this so it doesn't sound depressing? It's not depressing, actually. It's ultimately, I think, a really positive thing. Taking stock. Taking stock, not in comparison with my contemporaries, my loved ones, or my friends, my age, or roughly my age. I'm unmarried, and I don't have a family. I wouldn't say that I've amassed a fortune. I don't own where I live. So I was taking stock of, 20 years, well, what have you amassed, really? And again, not in a gloomy way.
Yes.
But just what have you amassed, really? And what I realized is what I've amassed is my experiences. I'm wealthy in my experiences.
Yes.
And earned those. And I thought, I can't be sloppy with those. Do you know?
Yes. Yes.
Not that they should be treasured by other people as if they're golden, but I thought I just want to make something out of them.
I love that.
And that's kind of it.
No, I love that. I think that's a great thing for other people to think about is, and it reminds me of that quote. I think it's Maya Angelou. People won't remember the things you did, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
Yes.
And I think for you, that is exponential as a quote, because yes, you have impacted so many people's lives, and in your ability to provide them with music, and also just the relationships that you've made along the way, right? And I love that you're wanting to kind of take stock and understand what you have accomplished. And I think everybody honestly should do that. Do you agree? You think that's
Oh, absolutely. I think, yes. And I think even if it's offering your perspective over a cup of coffee with a coworker, sharing that, I think is, I think more and more about the company we keep.
Yes. And
I tend to think of when I read a book or go see particularly a book, or hear a particular song or a particular singer that you might be fond of, or a particular writer that reaches you, or whatever. I feel like I've reached a point where I'm not going to pick up a book that doesn't speak. It's the company we keep. There are only a book or a good song or whatever. It's like a road trip. I'm not going to take a road trip with somebody whose voice annoys me. Or whose sense of humor doesn't make me laugh. Or whose perspective isn't intriguing. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's just, I can't be bothered. So I want to keep, and I love writers or creative people of any type. And they don't necessarily have to be famous or wealthy or anything, but anybody who reaches you across that distance and that you feel you understand them and that in some miraculous way they've understood you, that's really beautiful company. And I think that's I don't know, it sounds so highfalutin and sort of silly, but I really do think that matters. Maybe now more than ever. I think there's something rare and worth protecting about that, and worth seeking. And for example, I think you're keeping people company with, as an outreach. This is an outreach, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Keeping people a kind of company, intriguing them, enticing them to seek out something they may not have otherwise.
Right.
I mean, that's, I think, an extension of what you do.
Absolutely.
Or maybe at the heart of it.
Yeah, I would completely agree. And it's important. I think it is absolutely important to try to continue to foster that. And not everybody's going to do that, but for those of us that do it, I think that's
even
meaningful.
in their ways that are kind of small. I think people, you really never know how little gestures impact people.
Sure. That's true. You'll never know sometimes.
The little conversation that you spark at a party with somebody who's maybe not talking to anyone, or I don't know, little kindnesses, little things, the little laugh, the joke, the who knows what. You're in a crowded aisle of a store or something, and something happens, and you make a remark, and it gives somebody a little laugh. Is it kind of its own outreach? I don't know. I'm a believer in that.
I love that. No, I love that. Well, Eric, sadly we are approaching time here, but
we've completely blown through
it goes so fast.
The boundaries.
Yes,
my God.
But however, like I tell all of my guests, this is just part one. We will do another episode.
I would love it.
And dig in more.
Anytime.
Whether it might be in New York or we'll do it just remotely. However, I would love to chat more with you because I think you have so much more to talk about. But with that being said, congratulations on you've won awards. I mean, you're continuing to just grow and elevate your own life and where you're at.
Thank you.
It's incredible. So kudos to you. Keep going. You have so many people out there who I think are extremely impressed by what you do, inspired by what you do. And so please keep that feather in your cap and keep that going. And I think we're all excited to, eventually see this book released. Well, and we'll be waiting with bated breath. Continue to work on it though. No pressure, but
no. It's long overdue, and I think it's the work of this. Well, it's been the work of seemingly forever, but this is the thing for me. This is the thing that kind of excites me most. So, good. But thank you. What a beautiful. That's really beautiful. What you just said. I would
mean
love
it
that
wholeheartedly. Yes.
Anytime.
Thank you.
I've enjoyed it.
I'm honored to have you here as one of the legends. You are 100% legend, Eric, and I cannot wait to continue to see you grow. We'll have your socials here so people can follow you and continue to watch you grow. But before I let you leave, I do want to ask you, as I ask all my guests, a final question.
Sure.
What to you makes a person legendary?
I think I would define it as legendary isn't necessarily famous. I think legendary can be somebody who recognizes their gifts, knows how to align them to be of best service to others, and acknowledges something greater than themselves. And that could be a nurse, a librarian, a mechanic, I don't know, and wherever. That's how I would define legendary.
Beautiful. Beautifully said. I'm always intrigued by all of the answers that I get because they're always so different. But
I'm going to have to go and listen to your other podcast. I'm curious what everybody else thinks legendary.
It's really fascinating because most of the time they are talking about, yes, not famous people. They are talking about everyday people who are out there doing something beyond themselves, which I think is fascinating because it's true. That's why I started this podcast, because I believe that these individuals that I interview are doing exactly that. And nobody considers themselves a legend, which is great, because that's not a legendary quality to think of yourself as a legend. But you absolutely are, because you are out there making a difference, impacting people's lives, obviously working with children and the elderly. And just being you, being authentically you, which I love about you, Eric, is you are a unique person. You have so many talents. You're fun to talk to, fun to be around. So yes, we're absolutely going to do another episode. But
anytime. Listen, we can do it live from, I don't know, wherever you want.
Yeah,
New York.
My wife and I have been meaning to take a trip. So yes, I think, and we have not been to New York together, and we both have a strong desire to go. So yeah, keep an ear out. I'll be in contact with you.
I'll come run it. You let me know when you're there.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Eric, again, for being a part of the podcast.
It's been an honor. I've enjoyed it hugely.
It has been a wonderful episode. So yes, thank you everybody for tuning in. This has been another Legends of Zegen episode. So please follow Eric. We'll have his socials. And with that, thanks for watching. And don't forget, stay legendary.